Hi, welcome to What the Flick. My name is Christy. That's Alonzo. That's Bibbs joining us to talk about Pete's Dragon, which is not animated. Not really.
Well,
it's got a dragon.
There's an animated dragon.
Yes, yeah. But no one sings. All right, so please tell us about the new Pete's Dragon.
All right, Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon is sort of a remake. It takes the basic concept of Pete's Dragon, the original Disney musical from the 1970s, and completely reworks it as a very emotional drama about an orphan boy who befriends a dragon and what happens when they get separated. Let's take a look.
Guess you heard about the boy?
You know, word travels in this town. How long has he been out there?
6 years.
You don't survive in a forest for 6 years alone.
He says he wasn't alone.
The opening of this movie
oh my gosh, really?
is specifically designed to destroy you. It's like we all have those kids' movies that had those big emotional moments that wrecked us, like Old Yeller, Bambi. And, you know, this one gets it right out of the way before the credits.
well, you know, Disney's got to kill those parents.
You
gotta
cannot
kill 'em
have
hard.
parents in a Disney movie, no.
No.
You know, it's funny. A lot of times I will complain about a movie that feels like it's cobbled together from familiar parts and blah, blah, blah. And somebody will always say, well, there's only so many stories to tell.
Only 7.
Exactly. and yes, that's true. And the thing is, what are you going to do with it? You know, how are you going to make your version of this thing exciting or different or moving or whatever? This movie is basically E.T., but it's a great version of E.T.
It's totally E.T. It's pieces of E.T. and pieces of the Jungle Book, which we were talking about earlier. I mean, you have Pete is essentially Mowgli, like running around the forest. Right, he's been raised by an animal, a mythological one, but still an animal nonetheless. And that bond feels really true, really believable. And yeah, they established really efficiently in the beginning who this kid is, how he got in this situation. It's wordless, essentially. You know,
Mostly,
it's
yeah.
a few little words that he says. But it's heartbreaking in a very clear, efficient way. And then by the end, I was crying into my kid's head. I tweeted after her when I got home, bring Kleenex.
Yeah.
Good Lord. But it's also really old-fashioned and earnest in a way that I loved. Like, so much is so snarky and self-referential. And this is just, it was set in the 70s. It feels like it could have been made in the 70s.
It doesn't, yeah, I was going to say, like, there's no computers, there's no cell phones.
Right.
But you're right, tonally, it feels, it was directed by David Lowery, who did Ain't Them Bodies the Saints, which is a movie that I didn't love, but I did love the cinematography.
I love that movie.
And I love the way this movie looks, too. And it calls to mind those sort of 70s back to nature movies, like Where the Red Fern Grows and all those sort of like Wilderness Family kind of movies. Like it's really it's kind of an eco fable. Like the bad guy is a logger, you know.
Well, he is, but he isn't, because there's actually one of the things I respect about this movie is it doesn't feel like it's insulting to anybody, or that it's even necessarily hugely taking a side. There is a careful balance in this logging community between people who are trying to preserve the forest.
True, there's a good guy. There's a good guy logger too. Yeah,
I mean, and he's actually dating a forest ranger played by Bryce Dallas Howard, who ends up adopting sort of Pete over the course of the film. And I think there's that sensitivity there, which I admire. This feels like, you said it felt like a 70s movie. I felt like
I
this.
said that.
You said that. Well, you said Where the Red Fern Grows, which just came out in the 70s.
Yeah.
But I look at, the book Where the Red Fern Grows is based on. This feels like they took this story, Pete's Dragon, which was very bright and silly and bizarre, the original Pete's Dragon. I mean,
Shelley Winters has a musical number in the original one.
There's a bad guy in there who's trying to chop up this possibly imaginary dragon to use for medicine because he's a snake oil salesman. It's a weird story. And what they've created here is a book that I would have been required to read in 5th grade. You know, something along the lines of Shiloh, where it's just absolutely sensitive, absolutely about this sort of pre-adolescent melancholy that I think a lot of films are afraid to dramatize nowadays, especially as consistently as Pete's Dragon is. They might have a sad moment, but then they'll move on. You know, the opening, dead parents, that's hardly even a spoiler. He's got to end up with the dragon somehow. That's the opening, and then it cuts to him having fun with the dragon, but he's alone. And when he starts interacting with people again, you get this sense that this is not a happy thing. This is actually very sad that he's this isolated, and the movie's not afraid to go there, and it handles it respectfully. I admire that.
Yeah, it also handles the balance of him being physically like 11 years old, but with the mind of a 5-year-old. Because he's had to survive, but he's still mentally, emotionally at the place where he was when his parents died, and so they handled that transition of the kid. It reminded me of Room in that regard, right? Where he's reintroduced to society and how that is awkward and how he wants to go back to the place that is safe. I love the pacing of this movie. So many movies in the summer and made for kids are so fast and so noisy, and this really takes its time to establish this place and these relationships. Are you looking up who the little boy was?
Yes, I wanted to give it. I want Oaks Fegley, who plays Pete, and Oona Lawrence,
is on a roll.
who I think
great.
she was in Bad Moms. She was in Southpaw last year.
Jake Gyllenhaal's daughter in Southpaw.
Really terrific. All the performances are really good, but the kids especially.
Yeah,
And
she's like a young Ellen Page.
yeah,
Look
yeah,
and there's nothing cutesy kid-like about either of them.
No, thank goodness. Although I thought my one critique, if I'm going to be critical about the movie, is that I felt like the movie seems like it's coming to a natural ending. It's very sweet and romantic, and not in a romantic way, but in just a fairy tale kind of way. And then it has to continue, and it starts having this third act, which is actually fine, like it's well made, but it feels more Hollywood. It feels a little bit more contrived than everything that came before it. And it's not so much bad so much as it is just not as good as the rest of the movie.
I was feeling that way at first when it goes there, but then you find out something about the dragon that the movie hasn't revealed before that I thought was really important in that bit. And so I thought, okay, that now sort of retroactively, I get why they're doing this thing.
I felt that way too, though. There's a really beautiful shot that looks like a clear final shot. And it's like an overhead shot, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And it's pulling away. And then there's like a whole coda.
Oh no, but I love the coda too, though.
That's what I'm talking about that. Like I'm not sure we need, and we have more. We should mention the name Robert Redford. He is in this.
Oh yes,
and he narrates it.
He plays the Mickey Rooney role.
Yes, and he has to explain at the very, very end what we've all learned, and that felt a little unnecessary to me.
I'm talking about the moment in the woods where they all go out into the woods, and there's a sense of magic, and then there's got to be, there has to be
Big
some contrived
conflict
drama.
of the
Yeah,
thing,
somebody
yeah.
has to get, some bad guys have to show up,
no,
and there's
I
got to
don't
be a
mean
card.
that.
I thought that was a little
I was
contrived.
okay with that. I was okay with the coda. I think the coda would be better if you took the narration off of it, maybe.
Yes, that
But
too.
I think it does provide a resolution that we needed to get to.
Okay.
So this is a lovely, lovely movie, and you don't have to be or have a child to go see it. It's really gorgeous.
I agree. That is all true. So what are our numbers, please?
I'm giving it a 9. I love this movie. I think it's really great, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, 8.8, absolutely.
I'm saying 8.6. I'm right around there with you. So our average is an 8.8. It is an 86% on the tomato meter. It is a wonderful surprise in August. Go see it.